our tribe, Bill was instrumental in the prepared documentation that helped the tribe obtain state recognition in 2010. He is published in many genealogical publications and has been doing that since 1969 as a young man. He has written 6 books, or compiled 6 books, on the genealogy and history, mostly of people in this very particular area. I know that you join me in welcoming Bill Deyo back to what are his childhood stomping grounds. He grew up not far from here, and he is one who will tell us about our shared heritage. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you. I tend to be a little long-winded, but I was told that I need to keep this to 15 minutes, so I typed up my speech. Keep me on track, but I'll probably get off of it. As Jeanette said, this was my neighborhood that I grew up in, just 3 blocks down on Mortimer Avenue. And I used to ride down this hill on my bicycle, so it brings back a lot of memories to be here. I was asked to speak to you about the Rowe family connection to the Potomac Indian tribe. First of all, let me tell you a little bit about the name of the tribe. The tribe was the one that the Potomac River got its name from, and most people just call it Potomac, but the original way of pronouncing it would have been Potowamek or Potowamek, and that's the Algonquin language. Now, my cousin Buddy Jett has a little saying to help people remember not to call it Patawomac, because everybody tends to do that. He said, you can pat a dog, you can pat a cat, you can pat a cake, but you can't pat a Womack. The Rowe family of Fredericksburg descends from a long line of mayors and the famous Reverend George Rowe, but they also descend from a member of the Colonial Council of Virginia, the Indian Princess Pocohontos, Chief Japasaw of the Potomac tribe, and even the great chief Wahan Seneca, known as Powhatan, who was the leader of the Powhatan Federation of over 30 tribes. If you've seen a photograph of the Rowe ancestor Absalom P. Rowe, you'll see his undeniably strong Indian characteristics. And you might wonder how he got to look so much like an Indian when the Indian ancestor he had was so far back on the family tree. Well, the reason was his parents, George Rowe and Lucy Leach, were first cousins. Their mothers were patent sisters of the Indian blood. And not only that, Lucy Leach's father, when you look back on some of the Leach family, were very closely associated with the Foley family, who descended from Chief Wahanganochie of the Potomac tribe, and I assume the Leaches have that blood too. Reverend George Rowe's mother, Sarah, and his mother-in-law, Elizabeth, were daughters of Evan Peyton, a son of Charles Peyton and Diana Williams. Reverend George Rowe's I'll bring that up later. Charles Peyton had married Diana Williams, and she was the daughter of Evan Williams, and that's where Evan Peyton got his name. Her mother was Christian Martin. Christian Martin was the daughter of John Martin and Christian Pettis, who we know was born about 1636 from a legal deposition that she made. Christian Pettis was the daughter of Colonel Thomas Pettis, a member of the Colonial Council of Virginia, by the Indian girl Kaoki, daughter of the famous Pocahontas, and her first husband, the Indian Cocoam, younger brother of the great King of Potomac and of Chief Japasaw. Many people have tried to deny that Pocahontas had an Indian husband previously to John Rolfe, but it's in the colonial records. The colonial secretary of Virginia, William Strachey, wrote about it and even gave the date that she married Cocoam in 1610. And he knew Pocahontas personally. And not only that, he lived with the Potomac tribe for quite a while and learned their language. And we owe him a lot because he left us a dictionary of the language and the meanings. It was the claim of my family's descent from Pocahontas that motivated me at the age of 13 to start trying to find out how that came about. As a teenager, I started interviewing some of the family elders and relatives. I used to get my grandmother and my grandaunt to take me around to visit these people because they knew everybody. And I learned quite a bit of information, but everyone was so adamant about being descended from Pocahontas. So when I went to college at the University of Richmond, I learned how to do genealogical research. And I was determined I was going to find out how we descended from Pocahontas. So I started tracing all the descendants of Pocahontas and John Rolfe. And I worked on that for years. And I couldn't figure out how on earth our family descended from them. I thought, they must have just made this up. So just a decade ago, however, it came out from the sacred oral history of the Mattaponi Indian tribe that our tribe descended from Pocahontas. And their sacred history was passed down by the historians, and I was told by their historian who passed away about a year ago, Linwood Costello, that when he died, it probably would get lost because he said he was the last one that knew how to pass it down without it getting mixed up. And he said that was the feat of the historians, to pass down the lineage, and they knew that what was passed down was correct. They didn't have everything, but they knew what they did have was right. He said that Pocahontas had a child by Cocoa, and when she was kidnapped by the English in 1613, that child had to be left behind and was raised by the Potomac tribe. He also told me that he was a close relative of the late Chief O.T. Costello. And see, O.T. Costello married Elizabeth Newton, singer Wayne Newton's aunt. And so you're kin to Wayne Newton.
By the way,
he was very instrumental in helping us get state recognition. He gave up a couple of his shows in Las Vegas and lost a tremendous amount of money because of that. He came here and went to the state legislature with us to try to win them over, and we were accepted unanimously by both houses. But we owe O.T. Costello a debt of gratitude because when he was dating Elizabeth Newton, he went around and talked to her elders back then and found out that they knew that they descended from Pocahontas through her first husband, Cocoa. And that just clinched everything that I had been trying to figure out. I could trace our family back to Christian Pettis and her mother, Kaoki, and the only person on the family